Welcome to the channel JIV and CIV Made Simple. Today in this particular video, I am presenting before you IIBF Digital Banking Certification Course Memory Based question which happened on 13th September. And these questions will help you gauge that important topic from where questions are being asked. I have also created videos of earlier memory based question which happened in the regarding the examination. You can check out those videos. So let's get started with our first question, that the what is the key security of the key security feature of the EMB chip card that differentiate them from traditional magnetic stripe card. Options are: EMB card store data only on the magnetic stripe and require a signature for verification. Option B: EMB card uses a chip that perform mutual authentication with the terminal and generate unique transaction code. Option C: EMB card transmit the card number in an encrypted form during every transaction. Option D: EMB card do not support pin based verification. These are the four options that we have. So if you look at the option number A, so let's see. Traditional magnetic stripe card do store static data on the stripe. Traditional magnetic stripe card, they store static data on the stripe, but sometimes they ask for a signature. But if you talk about the EMB chip card, they are completely different. They don't just rely on a stripe. So this one is not correct, right? Option number A is not correct. What about option B? Option B says that EMB chip card uses a chip that performs mutual authentication. Think of it like, a secret handshake between your card and the payment machine. They both check each other to make sure that they are genuine. Plus, the chip generates a unique code for every transaction. So even if someone steals that data, they cannot use it again. For example, imagine you give a unique password every time you enter a room. Even if someone sees the password once, it won't work next time. That is how EMB chip card protect you from fraud. So what about option B? I think okay. So now option number C. Let's look at option number C. It says that EMB card transmit the card number in an encrypted form during every transaction. This is wrong. Yes, B1 is the B number option is the correct one. C is wrong. Why? Because if the card number was sent openly, anyone could steal it easily. EMB card use encryption, right? So it is unencrypted. See, clearly it is in unencrypted form. See, if the card number was sent openly, anyone could steal it easily. So EMB card uses encryption and unique code for each transaction so that your data stays safe. What about option D? Option D says that EMB card do not support pin based verification. So also it is wrong, because EMB card can use a pin, signature, or sometimes no verification at all. In India and many other countries, using a pin is mandatory for added security. So this statement is false, right? So friends, the correct answer to this question is option number B, that EMB card uses a chip that perform mutual authentication and generate unique transaction code. That is the reason why EMB card are much harder to clone as well as misuse as compared to the old magnetic stripe card. Let's quickly recapitulate what we learned from this particular question. Is that EMB card have a chip, not just a stripe. Chip and terminal do mutual check before transaction, right? So this chip and terminal, they do the mutual check before transaction. Each transaction get a unique code. Please remember, the full form of EMB is Europay, Mastercard and Visa. Each transaction get a unique code, so stolen data is useless, and EMB card can use pin or signature for extra security. This make EMB card much safer than magnetic stripe card. I hope it is crystal clear. They have a chip, right? They have a chip. They do a mutual check before each transaction. Each transaction get a unique code, and they use pin or signature for extra security. This make EMB card much safer than magnetic stripe card. Please remember it. Very, very important from examination point of view. Now the second question is on your screen, which you can see. Yes, this one. Which of the following correctly describe a key difference between a private cloud and a public cloud? So friends, let's discuss this particular question. Options are, option A says that private cloud resources are shared among multiple customers, while public cloud resources is used exclusively by one customer. Option B say private cloud is hosted on vendor data center and public cloud is always on customer premises. Option C say private cloud is used exclusively by one customer, often on their premises, while public cloud is hosted by vendor and shared by multiple customers through virtualization. Option D say public cloud eliminate the need for hardware and software update, while private cloud require constant update management by the customer. So let's look at the option. Let's start with option number A. So if you look at the option number A, it says that resources are shared among multiple customers. This is wrong. Actually, it is the other way around. Private cloud is for one organization only, while public cloud is shared among many customers. So this option is incorrect. What about option B? Option B is also wrong. Why? Usually, private cloud are often on the customer premises, so organization has full control of it, while public cloud are hosted by vendor in their data center. So this option is misleading, right? This option is misleading. Why? Because usually private cloud are often on the customer premises. Remember, private cloud are on the customer premises, but it is reverse is written here. What about option C? If you look at the option C, it says that private cloud is used exclusively by one customer, often on their premises. Yes, this is the correct answer. You can think of it like this. Private cloud is your own personal cloud, like having a private room where only you can store your stuff. You manage it yourself and it is very secure. That is the peculiarity of private cloud. If you look at the public cloud, it is a shared hotel room where many people use the same infrastructure but through virtual partition. The cloud provider manages everything for you and you pay only for what you use. That is called difference between private and public cloud. What about option D? Option D says that it eliminates the need for hardware and software update. This is partially misleading. While public cloud provider handle most update, private cloud still need management. But the main point that differentiate private and public cloud is who uses it and where it is hosted. So this option is not fully correct. So the correct answer is option number C. Private cloud is exclusively to one computer, often on their premises, while public cloud is hosted by vendor and shared among multiple customers. That is the key difference. So what is the key learning? Let's quickly recap the key points. Please remember, private cloud means only one organization. Often it is done inside and more control, more security. While public cloud is hosted by vendor, shared by many, cost effective, less management overhead. And you can think of the personal room versus shared hotel room to remember the difference. The next question that we have, and you must know about SaaS, software as a service, PaaS, platform as a service, and IaaS, infrastructure as a service. So these are the three categories in which the cloud service are further classified. Okay, so this question may be asked. Now the question is regarding NFC. Which of the following statement correctly describe a key aspect of the near field communication technology used in contactless payment and the smart card? Very good question it is. Option A says that NFC allow wireless data exchange only at distance greater than 1 meter. Option B says that NFC enables short-range secure data exchange typically within 10 cm, allowing touch and go payment. Option C says that NFC requires physical contact between devices for data transmission. Option D says that NFC technology cannot be integrated with EMB standard for secure transaction. If you look at the option A, this is wrong. Why? Because NFC work at a very short distance, usually just few centimeter. So it is meant for touch and go payment, not long range communication like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are long range communication. But if we talk about NFC, they are usually a few centimeter, right? So like touch and go payment. What about option B? So option B is the correct one. Option A was wrong, right? Option B is the correct one. Why? Because you can think of the NFC like a tiny handshake between your card or phone and the payment terminal. You just bring your card or phone very close, usually within 10 cm, and the payment is done instantly. For example, when you tap your phone or a card at a metro station or a retail point of sale machine, POS machine, that is NFC in action. The communication is secure, the communication is encrypted so that your payment information is protected. What about option C? So option C is also wrong. You don't need to swipe or insert your card. NFC work wirelessly. Just by bringing the device close to the reader, no touching is required. What about option D? NFC technology cannot be integrated with EMB standard for secure transaction. This is also wrong. In fact, NFC work perfectly with EMB standard, which ensure encrypted and authenticated payment, making your transaction very secure. So the correct answer to this question is obviously option number B, that NFC enables short range secure data exchange typically within 10 cm. So just remember the keywords. Whenever you hear the word NFC, just remember it stands for near field communication. It is short range wireless communication, usually up to 10 cm, used for contactless payment. Tap and go convenience is there. They work with EMB standards, For secure transaction, no physical contact is required, unlike old swipe card. In old swipe card, physical contact is required. Here, no physical contact is required. Commonly used in metro ticket, tolls, retail payment, and smart. Friends, next question that we have: which of the following best describe the characteristics of a data lake? Option A: store only processed structured data with predefined scheme for immediate business use. Option B: contain raw unprocessed data in various formats, allowing later analysis by skilled specialists. Option C: is accessible and understandable for all business users without any specialized skill. Option D: only store current data in a fixed format for reporting purpose. Very good question. Let's look at the option number A. Option number A is wrong. That actually describe a data warehouse. Please understand the difference between a warehouse and the data lake. See, data warehouse are neat and structured, ready for report, but data lake are different. They are more flexible. Data lake are different. Data lake are more flexible, right? What about option number B? It says it contains raw unprocessed data in various format. This is the correct answer. You can think of the data lake like a huge storage pool where you throw in all kind of data, structured, semi-structured, unstructured, without cleaning it first. You are not cleaning it first. You are throwing all kind of data, structured, unstructured, semi-structured. Later, data scientist or data analyst, they dive in and make sense of it using some special tool. For example, imagine a giant warehouse where you store all the receipt, all the videos, all the logs, all the social media data. You don't sort it immediately. Later, expert pick and analyze what is needed for business insight, predictive analysis, or machine learning, right? That is the point. That is the data lake, right? Data warehouse is the different thing. Data warehouse are the neat and structured thing. So first of all, we have data lake, and then we prepared data warehouse based on the data lake. Now option number C says that it is accessible and understandable for all business user without any specialized skill. This is wrong, because the data lake contains raw and the complex data. Typical business user cannot directly use it without technical or analytical skill. Option number D say it only store current data in a fixed format for reporting purpose. It is again wrong, because data lake store all kind of historical and current data in various format, not fixed format, and they are meant for deeper analysis, not just reporting. So the correct answer to this question is option number B. Data lake contain raw unprocessed data in many format which expert later analyze for insight. So remember, what we learned from this question is that data lake is the raw unprocessed data stored centrally. It can hold unstructured, semi-structured, unstructured data, right? And data lake require a skilled analyst or data scientist to analyze it. And data lake is ideal for big data analytics, machine learning, predictive insight, and it is different from data warehouse. Data warehouse are pre-processed and structured. That is the difference, right? Now friends, let's shift our focus to the next question. Friends, if you are looking for a study material for the IT and DB through which many aspirants have cracked the examination, you can WhatsApp me on the number 8292857381, or in the description section of this video you will get the link to the course. In the course you will get previous year memory based question with their in-depth explanation. Also you get 2000 plus MCQs for practice purpose and the concise notes for quick revision. So it will ultimately help you to ace your examination in the very first attempt. And obviously many aspirants have cracked the examination using our material. You can also look for it in the first attempt itself. Now the question is, which of the following statement correctly describe the feature of the NETC, that is called National Electronic Toll Collection System in India? Option A, FASTag can be transferred from one vehicle to another easily. Option B, NETC use RFID technology allowing toll payment while the vehicle is in motion without stopping at the toll plaza. Option C, FASTag payment require cash transaction at toll plaza if balance is insufficient. Option D, NETC toll payment are only valid at toll plaza managed by the issuing bank of the FASTag. The question is, which of the following statement correctly describe a key feature of the NETC system? So let's look at the option number A. This is wrong. Why? Because FASTag is linked to a specific vehicle and it cannot be transferred to another vehicle. Think of it like a car specific ID. Only that car can use it, right? What about B? Yes, this is the correct answer. This is how it works. Let's see how it works. FASTag is a sticker, and this sticker is having RFID. What is RFID? Radio Frequency Identity Distribution. right? On your car windscreen, there is a FASTag sticker. When your vehicle passes through a toll plaza, the system automatically read the tag and deduct the toll from your linked account without making you stop. For example, imagine driving on a highway and the toll is deducted while you drive through. Saving time, saving fuel, that is the magic of NETC. What about option C? This is partially true but misleading. While you cannot use FASTag if your balance is insufficient, you must pay cash separately. So it is not a normal feature of FASTag. The key feature of NETC is that contactless automatic payment while moving. No cash fallback. What about D? D says that D is again wrong. One of the main benefit of NETC is interoperability. What is the meaning of it? That you can use your FASTag at any toll plaza across India, no matter which bank issued it. So the correct answer to this question is option number B. Right. So remember, NETC stands for National Electronic Toll Collection. Right. And it is done using FASTag. FASTag is a kind of RFID sticker. Right. Is a kind of RFID sticker linked to your vehicle account. Toll is deducted automatically while driving. No need to stop. FASTag is vehicle specific. It is now non-transferable. You can use FASTag at any toll plaza in India. Fully interoperable. The question is, in the context of MPUS or the mobile point of sale, what is the meaning of SLAD? Yes, very good question. This was asked in the recent examination. What is SLAD? Option A software app that process payment on the smartphone. A handheld docking station that connect card reader or barcode scanner to a mobile device. A type of credit card used specifically for mobile payment. A wireless technology used for communication between the devices. So which option do you think is correct? So option number A software app that process payment on a smartphone. This is wrong. While MPUS app do process payment, SLAD is not a software, it is a physical device. So this option is incorrect. Option number B is the correct one. You can think of SLAD as a small gadget that clips onto your smartphone or tablet holding a card reader or a scanner. It allows your mobile device to become a portable cash register. For example, if you are a street vendor selling snacks, you can attach a card reader to your phone using SLAD and accept payment anywhere. No bulky POS machine is required. So SLAD is a card reader you can attach to your mobile phone, right? And using SLAD, you can accept payment anywhere. No bulky POS is required. That is the future of SLAD. What about option C? Again, it is wrong. SLAD has nothing to do with the card themselves. It is a device that connects the card reader to your phone. What about option D? Again, it is wrong. SLAD may use Bluetooth or cable to connect, but it is not a wireless technology. It is physical docking station. So the correct answer is option number B. Please remember, SLAD is a handheld docking station. So SLAD is a handheld docking station for MPUS. It is attached to a smartphone or tablet. It holds card reader, barcode scanner or other peripheral. It enables mobile on-the-go payment acceptance. Perfect for merchant, vendor or moving sellers. I hope SLAD we have discussed right now. Yes, very good question which is asked every year. For which of the following correctly match the component of CIA tried in information security? Right, CIA tried they are asking you. Very good question it is. So options are A. Confidentiality, which means data is accessible to everywhere. Integrity, which means data changes are unrecorded. Availability, which means data is rarely accessible. Option B. Confidentiality, only authorized access. Integrity, data remain accurate and unaltered. Availability, data accessible when needed. C. Confidentiality, data is shared publicly. Integrity, which means data often changes without control. Availability, which data is completely offline. D. Confidentiality, data encrypted only at the rest. Integrity, which changes to data are ignored. Availability means data accessed only by IT admin. Very good question. Let's look at the option number A. This is wrong. In fact, this is the opposite of what the CIA tried made. We don't want everyone to access data. We want changes to be tracked. And data should be readily available, not rarely accessible. Option number B. This is the correct answer. Confidentiality means only the right people can see the data. Imagine your bank account detail. No one else should see them. Integrity means data stay correct and unchanged. Data stay correct, data stay unchanged unless authorized. For example, your bank balance should not be changed randomly. Availability. Availability means data is available when you need it. For example, you should be able to check your bank account anytime without any downtime. What about option C? Yes, this is wrong. This is literally the opposite of what we want. Data should not be public. It should not change without control. It should be accessible, not offline. Option number D is again wrong. CIA trade is broader than this, right? Confidentiality is not about only encryption. Integrity requires proper tracking of changes, and availability is for all authorized user, not just IT admin. So the correct answer to this question is option number B. Please remember it. Confidentiality means only authorized access. Integrity means accuracy and unaltered data. Availability means data accessible when required, right? And this question is asked every examination. Please memorize it. CIA tried. Now the question is, what is the key feature of USSD star 99 has based mobile banking that differentiate it from SMS based service? Option number A, require internet connectivity for transaction. B, establish a real time session establishing two-way interactive communication. C, only support one-way message like SMS. D, require installation of a mobile banking application. What do you think about it? A, B, C or D? So friends, if you talk about option A, it is wrong. Why? Because one of the best thing about USSD is that it does not need internet. You can use it on any basic phone as long as you have mobile network coverage. What about option B? Option B is the correct answer. Let me explain in the simple word. USSD open a live session between your phone and the bank. A live session, okay? You can select menu option like enter amount, get instant response, all in the real time. For example, when you dial star 99 hash to check your balance or to transfer fund, the menu pop up immediately and you can interact with it step by step. Unlike SMS, you don't have to wait for message to be sent and received. What about C? Support one-way message? No, this is wrong. SMS is one way. You send a message, wait for a reply. USSD is interactive. It is conversation between you and the bank in the real time. What about option D? It is again wrong. USSD work on any phone without any app. All you need is the basic phone and mobile network access. So the correct answer to this question is option number B. Right. So remember, what we learned from this question is that full form of USSD is unstructured supplementary service data. Right. It is used over GSM network. It is a star 99 hash service for mobile banking. No internet or no app is required. Real time session, that is a two-way interaction with the bank menu. Ideal for bank inquiry, fund transfer, menu driven banking. Right. Now the question is, which of the following statement correctly describe the functionality of NUUP, that is star 99 hash mobile banking service? Again, this is related to the previous one. Option A, it required the installation of a specific banking app and internet connectivity on the mobile phone. Option B, it provides banking service through USSD or any GSM mobile phone without requiring internet or app installation. Option C, it is available only to the user of the smartphone with Wi-Fi capacity or capability. Option D, it can be accessed exclusively on computer or tablet. What do you think about it? So option number A is wrong. Why it is wrong? Because NUUP work without any app, without any internet. Even a basic phone can use it. So this is incorrect. Option B is the correct answer. Here's the simple way to think about it. NUUP allow you to dial star 99 hash on your phone and see a menu right on the screen. From there, you can check your balance, transfer money or view mini statement. For example, even if you don't have a smartphone or data plan, you can still do banking using a small feature phone. What about C? This is wrong. NUUP work on any GSM phone, even basic phone without Wi-Fi or internet. What about option D? Option D is again wrong. NUUP is a mobile service, specifically designed for phone. Computer and tablet are not required. So the correct answer is option number B. NUUP provide banking service through USSD on any GSM mobile phone without needing internet, without needing app. Friends, if you think that this video is adding value to your preparation, please hit that like button. This will motivate me to make more such content. The question is, which of the following best describe the Internet of Things in modern household and industry? Option A, physical devices connected only to the internet for data storage. Option B, physical object is embedded with microprocessor and sensor communicating over local network. Option C, computer that run on cloud service for processing. Option D, only a smartphone and computer with internet access. So if you look at the option A, it is wrong. IoT is much broader than just phone. It includes all kind of physical device that can communicate, that can act. Option B is the correct one. You know, IoT is a smart network of device. These devices could be fridge, car, light, industrial machine, even toys. Basically anything with sensor and a small computer inside. For example, imagine your smart fridge detect that you are out of milk and automatically order some online, or your smart thermostat adjust the temperature based on your preference. All of this happen without you lifting a finger, thanks to the IoT, Internet of Things. Option number C is wrong. While IoT is used in the industry, it is not limited to industrial machine. It is everywhere, from home to cities. And option number D is also wrong. Wearable like smart watches, these are the part of IoT. But IoT include many other devices, not just wearable. So IoT means Internet of Things. These are the devices like physical object with sensor and microprocessor. They communicate and act via network like Wi-Fi, RFID. They can automate tasks without human input. Example is smart fridge, thermostat car, industrial machine, toys, etc. So friends, we have some more question. If you want me to bring the part 2 lecture of it, just write yes in the chat box. I will bring the part 2. And if you think that this video was useful to your preparation, please hit that like button. And if you need study material for ITA, digital banking certification course, you can WhatsApp me on the number 8292857381, or in the description section of the video you will get the course link. Thank you.